I was having a great conversation with a friend, as we usually do, and I asked him something specific about the way he experiences a visual object. And I don't always try to get at exactly what people's experience is in this way, but in the conversation it made sense to investigate. So I asked him, when you look across the room and you see an object, or you see a visual experience or a visual stimulus or something on the wall, a painting or television, where is it? Where do you experience it? And he laughed and he said, how can I answer that? Or something to that effect. And then I said, but where do you feel it? Where do you experience it? Where is it? And he said, it's exactly where it is. It's just where it is. And I thought that was a very good answer. I said, is it over there and you're over here looking at it? And he said, neither. Or both. Or maybe I added both. But the key is he clearly experiences non-duality in the sense fields. And I asked a few other questions to clarify, but it was clear that for him, there aren't objects over there and someone viewing the objects over here. There isn't sound across the room and someone over here listening to that sound. There's just sound engulfing the experience. The sound is the experience. There's nothing more to that. There's not somebody listening to the sound, processing the sound, labeling the sound, recording the sound in memory. There's just the sound. This is non-dual experience. So the reason I thought to talk about this is it points to a reasonably good way of investigating the nature or the non-dual nature of the sense gates or sense phenomena. And that is, in a very simple and direct way, you simply observe the visual object across the room. Anything. It can be a doorknob, television set, light bulb, and ask yourself, where is that? Where is this experience, the visual experience? And just watch what happens. Observe what happens. Is there an answer in the mind? Is there a thought that speaks up and says, well, I know that's over there, really, and I'm over here, and there are light rays moving through space, and those photons are hitting my retina, etc., right? If that's your experience, that's fine, and that's thought. So in that moment, you have the ability to recognize that a thought has become your primary experience, not the visual experience. And then you have the opportunity to put your attention back on that visual experience, or just to clarify what the visual experience is without thought. So you can ask yourself, now, what is that without the mental explanation of photons moving through the air and striking a retina? Or what is that without the label television set? And then the thoughts about how I'm the one looking at the television set, and how silly this is that I'm even thinking about this, and how absurdly obvious it is that that's over there and I'm over here, yeah? So when you start to recognize those thoughts, that's good. It's good practice. The practice is showing you the difference between a thought and that visual experience. Can you find evidence for all of those thoughts in the visual experience itself? So if you just look back to that seeming object, the colors, the shapes, the texture, just that. In that, where do you see an explanation? In that, just that, where do you see a label? Would that stop being that if it was called an airplane or a human rather than a television? Would it change the experience of that or this, the visual experience, one iota to change the label? Of course not. So the label's not intrinsic to the experience. How about distance? when you look at just that, maybe you're looking at a red ball. There's just that shape, that form, texture, color, the radiant nature of it. Just that. Is there something in that experience that tells you where it is? Are you finding something directly in that visual experience that says 10 feet away, 5 feet away, 1 foot away? What do you have to reference to know that? Are you referencing the visual experience, or are you referencing thought? Now let's look at an even subtler distinction. Not me. If you're looking at a cup across the room, and by the way, I hope you actually do this. If you don't perform this exercise, and you just try to evaluate what I'm saying and decide whether you believe it, you'll just be in your head. It'll be nothing but thoughts. It'll be conceptual. But if you apply it with some diligence and take some time to actually do this, you might be surprised what you start to find. So imagine you're looking at a cup across the room. Now, if you're looking at that cup or any other object, is there something about those colors and shapes and structure and texture that says, not me? We'll assume we've already gone past the label and the cognitive understanding of the way light works and the way vision works. And it's just that. In just that, where is the not me? What do we have to reference to perceive that that is outside, somewhere else? Are you referencing the actual visual experience? Or are you referencing something you learned a long, long time ago? Try it. See what happens. If you're ruthlessly honest with yourself, and there's just blue sphere, and then we drop sphere and blue and everything we think we know about what a sphere is and what the color blue is, and even the label, and where that seems to be in space based on our thoughts, then that blue will fill up experience. It will be all of experience. But it won't be a name or a label or a color. It will be pure experience. You and the experience will not be two things, two entities. There's just experiencing, not an experiencer and an object of experience. And this can come in little tastes at first. You might just get a glimpse of this, a little taste of it, and it might come full force out of the blue. And it doesn't really matter which way this happens. But for many people, doing some practice in this way, and the practice is only inquiry, that's what's necessary to clarify this. And it can clarify beyond initial glimpses, and it can even clarify beyond a vague but persistent instinctual understanding of non-dual. It can become complete immersion to where there is only non-dual phenomenon. Nothing outside, nothing even inside. Complete combustion of all traces of identity, essence, shape, form, movement, up, down, back, front, gone. Just intimacy, luminosity, radiance. So it's worth working at this, in my opinion, and people definitely clarify this through this kind of inquiry. Now, if you've never had that initial shift, the initial awakening, you might want to work on that kind of self-inquiry approach that I describe in the Approaching Awakening section or in my book first, and then this type of investigation will become much clearer. Although Of course, you're welcome to do it anytime. It just may be more difficult before that initial shift to really start to taste what non-duality is. And not just that it's something you can taste as an experience, but starting to really instinctually know that it is the way this is. There's no way it could be other. Everything else is a thought. Everything else is a reflection of the mind trying to put things together in a way that feels continuous, predictable, solid. This isn't continuous, nor is it predictable, nor is it solid. There's too many degrees of freedom to be limited by any of those descriptions or experiences. It's not even limited by the necessity of an experiencer. It's too free. It's not even an it. It's too close and to everything, and to everywhere and to nowhere to be described as an it. So these words come from nowhere. They land nowhere, just like sound comes from nowhere and lands nowhere. No receiver, no transmitter, just this.